While dreaming about my future collection of 10 or more PCs that will run Windows XP, questions started to creep into my mind. Questions about CPU scaling, CPU performance, and multi-core CPU viability in Windows XP games. And because my mind can't stand an unanswered question, I've decided to check if there are any performance gains in Windows XP games when using a dual-core CPU. You can search this topic on the World Wide Web, of course, but I wanted to see the charts with my own eyes. So relax and let's dig into this topic together. The Windows XP platform is great for this kind of tests because it consumes close to none resources, so we can see more clearly what games benefit from the second core. Close to none resources when compared to Windows 10 or 11, where the operating system uses a hefty number of resources in the background because, you know, Microsoft needs to steal your data. I am going to use the famous Pentium D 940, which is clocked at 3.2 GHz, and I've chosen the Pentium D because if I disable one core, we practically have a pure Pentium 4 Cedar Mill, clocked at 3.2 GHz because the Pentium D was forged in the fires of California by gluing two Pentium 4s together. Nice engineering, Intel. The video card is a Sapphire X1900 XTX and I'm using 4 gigs of RAM, so everything should run pretty well. I've tested 7 games, released between 2002 and 2005, and the performance in some of them was quite surprising, and in other disappointing. All games were tested using two settings: lowest resolution plus lowest settings and highest resolution and highest settings. I didn't use anti-aliasing for any of the games, I used anisotropic. All benchmarks were run at least twice. Usually I run the test 3 times to make sure that there are no considerable variations. Well, there were no considerable variations. The first game is Neverwinter Nights, a game released in 2002, an RPG classic developed by BioWare, a company that releases good games until the present time. I'm testing the game on a demo map included with Neverwinter Nights Diamond Edition, and I'm going to record the frame rates using MSI Afterburner by walking around the entire map. As you can see, there are no differences in performance between single and dual core, and it seems that this game has terrible optimizations. 50 FPS on a 3.2 CPU and the Radeon X900 XTX? Not impressed. The second game is another BioWare classic, Knights of the Old Republic, released back in 2003. I've recorded the frame rates using MSI Afterburner by playing the first minutes of the game. As you can see, the second core does not bring any performance increase, so that is that. If you're asking why I'm testing such older games, when it's clear that their engines are not dual core optimized, it's simple, peace of mind. 30 minutes of tests dissipated hours of sleepless nights thinking about this subject. Now let's carry on. The third game is Far Cry, and for testing I've used a very good Far Cry benchmarking tool from the Guru 3D Gods. Here we're starting to see the results. At minimum settings we have a meager 10% increase in performance, and at 1600 by 1200 with ultra settings we have a 20% increase. But this is not the entire story. Let's analyze the frame times, because there we're going to see more interesting things. So, when using a single core, we have an average of 60 FPS. And we may say, great, 60 FPS is perfect for a first-person shooter. But looking at this graph, we can see that there are a lot of FPS drops under 50. On the other hand, using a dual core, we're seeing that there are just a few drops under 60, so we have a more enjoyable and stable experience when using a second core. I've tested Doom 3 using the in-game benchmark, and the results are simply outstanding. By using the dual core I got no less, no more than 50% more FPS. Wow, truly amazing, I really didn't expect that. As you can see, the ETEC 4 engine scales very well. We have 50% more FPS when using a dual core on both settings, lowest and ultra. Well done, John, nice engine. I'm something of a fanboy when talking about the ETEC engines. The games that were made using those engines, and these results makes me like them even more. I've tested the Steam version, also this is not the BFG version. I don't know if these results are the same for the disc version. Now, let's see the frame times. With dual core we basically have no drops under 60 FPS, which is awesome! The single core can help the video card so much. There are a lot of drops under 60 FPS.
Rise and shine, Mr. Freeman. Rise and shine. Not that I wish.
I've walked on the insertion point map on the same path and recorded it with MSI Afterburner. I did the test 3 times. I had consistent frames between the runs, so the tests look okay. There is a 20% difference when using the lowest settings and 50% at 1600 by 1200 using max settings. Not even the 1% or 0.1% are that different, so the FPS is not great with this one. But I have a theory with this game in particular. I strongly believe that the Source engine can scale more when using dual core, but this Pentium D is not strong enough for Half-Life 2. In the future, I'm going to do similar tests by using a Core 2 Duo, so maybe we're going to see better results then.
Station 12, come in.
The next game is Battlefront 2. No, not this one, the best one. Well, that's better, thank you.
Days are over, Trooper. This is a real battle. And if you mess up, you'll really end up in a...
There are absolutely zero differences in this game, so what can I say? These are the results. It does not matter if you have 1 or 2 cores, the game runs the same. Sad, very sad. The last game that I'm going to test is Fear, and this game wasn't scary only for young nerd me, but also for all the systems back then. You really needed a beast to properly run Fear. As you can see in the charts, there are no big differences between single core and dual core. Now, the Fear benchmark also shows us how many times the game runs lower than 25 FPS, between 25 and 40, and more than 40 FPS. Looking at the results for 1600 by 1200, maximum settings, soft shadows included, we see that the dual core has some advantages. In 9% of the time, the game runs over 40 FPS, compared to 0% in the case of the single core. It has 20% less drops under 25 FPS, and in 66% of the time, it runs between 25 and 40 FPS, compared to 55% of the time when using single core. I must say, these results are not at all impressive. I was expecting more, but just like in Half-Life 2's case, I think that the game is bottlenecked by the CPU, and I'm pretty sure that by the GPU also. So using a better CPU and a more powerful video card should in theory provide us with more performance increase, single core versus dual core. But this in another video. Thank you all for watching. I'm really glad that I'm able to share with you some gold nuggets from the past. And until next time, take care and be nostalgic.
It's safer here.